And then there was one. Let's talk about Ty Rodgers redshirting.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Illini. Thank you for making us your first listen every single day. My name is Sunny Verma. You can find me at IlliniCast. You can find me at the Sunny V. And now you can find me on all your favorite platforms. Just do a quick search for Locked On Illini. Just know I'm handling those accounts, so it's a way for you guys to message me. Another way I've restarted just on Monday night was I reopened the Discord that was open for the Locked On Illini community. So please feel free. I'll leave the link in the description here. Join the Discord. This is a way for all of us to kind of communicate even when the show isn't on or if the show isn't live. I'd love to get some feedback from you guys and kind of get to know what kind of content you guys want. And it's free for all type of community. Of course, no Boilermakers allowed. Today's episode is going to be a fun one. We're going to be talking about, well, I don't know if fun is the right word. We're going to be talking a little bit about the big victory for Illinois yesterday over Eastern Illinois. But for the most part, we're going to talk about the story that arguably overshadowed even that victory. And that's Ty Rodgers, his decision to redshirt and what it looks like it means ultimately transfer out of the program. But before we get started, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Okay, so about 2 hours before the basketball game yesterday, it was noted that Ty Rodgers was listed as out on the availability report. And questions started being asked. And I believe it was Jeremy Warner from 24/7 Illini Inquirer, who, by the way, they do fantastic premium content over there. He basically sought out more information, and he kind of confirmed that Ty Rodgers and Brad Underwood had a conversation, a very private conversation in the previous 24 to 48 hours, and that Ty Rodgers had ultimately come to the decision that he was going to redshirt this year and not suit up for the Illini on the basketball court. This surprised many, and including me. And I say that knowing that this was a situation I wanted to keep an eye out on. Those of you who watch the show every single day, first off, thank you so much. If you watch my show on Sunday, one of the key things I wanted to observe for Monday's matchup was to see how they were going to split the minutes at the 3 spot in the lineup. And that's between Trey White, Will Riley, and Ty Rodgers. Ty Rodgers didn't play all that much or do all that much against Ole Miss in the exhibition game. And if I'm going to be frank with you, what I've heard is all offseason long, all summer long, that Ty Rodgers is, of course, a talented player, but he wasn't necessarily standing out from Trey White and Will Riley. The bottom line is Brad Underwood truly has upgraded the talent on this team. And Ty Rodgers, at this point, you have to wonder to yourself. I'm not saying Trey White has looked super impressive in either game against Ole Miss or the opener on Monday, but when you're talking about skill set, there's not much that Ty Rodgers provides that Trey White can't duplicate himself. And Trey White can actually make a three-pointer here and there and provide some stuff on the offensive end of the basketball where Ty Rodgers has historically struggled. This is a tough decision. And from when I watched the Brad Underwood press conference, it was obviously something which I think how do I phrase this? I don't think it was a Brad decision. I think it was a Ty Rodgers decision. And quite honestly, the more I've thought about it, and now that I've had almost 24 hours to kind of soak in and really think about the whole situation, I think I understand where Ty Rodgers is coming from. And at the same time, I think this might ultimately be the right decision for Illinois basketball as well. Some of you who watched my post game yesterday, which I appreciate a lot of you. I got almost a dozen new subscribers just from that episode alone. Locked On Illini started during the off season. So those of you who are focused on Illini basketball, this may have been the first time you were introduced to Locked On Illini. And so a quick introduction. My name is Sunny Verma. Hit that like button, subscribe button. I'm doing Illini content every single day. But as I mentioned, over the summer, Brad Underwood had a session with the media where he kind of gave us a piece of where his mindset was leading this program moving forward. And I talked about, when he took over the program here, we were one of the worst in the Big Ten. Our goals at that point were just to, hey, let's not play that Wednesday night game in the Big Ten tournament. And then from that point on, it was like, hey, let's finish in the top half of the Big Ten. And then we got to the point where Brad was having us compete and win conference championships and compete for and win the Big Ten tournament titles. Then for the last couple of years, the elusive Sweet 16. That's what Brad needed to kind of get off of his shoulder. And guess what? That's what we did last year, making it not just past the Sweet 16, but to the Elite Eight. But having said that, Brad, I think, was being very honest with the media when he said that when he walked off the court against UConn, he saw that day the difference between a very good college basketball team and an elite national championship contender. And I think at that point, this is what I kind of find endearing about Brad is he's willing to shift around his strategy if he thinks he can find a better path to succeed. And that has a little bit to do with the roster turnover. Now, granted, last year's team just had a lot of graduating players, so the roster turnover was going to happen anyway. But when you lose a guy like Amani Hansberry, Sincere Harris, Dane Danger, you're losing good quality college basketball players, and I'm not disputing that. But when I look at the guys who we have in their place, a guy like Kasparas Jakucionis, you see Will Riley's ceiling, Morez Johnson. I think what you're doing essentially is you're not just replacing the guys that you lost last year, but you're increasing the ceiling on your basketball team, which ultimately brings me back to Ty Rodgers. And there's a couple of games I wanted to bring up in Ty Rodgers' campaign last year. And that's the final game of his what looks to be Illinois career, and that was against UConn in the Elite Eight game. Ty Rodgers played 8 minutes. He went 0 for 5 and really didn't provide all that much on the basketball court. And, this is when you have a zero come out, a player in your starting lineup, that's just completely hard to overcome, especially when you're playing against a team like UConn, who has essentially NBA players at every single spot in their starting lineup. Ty Rodgers is one of those guys who's going to be a very good college basketball player, who's going to help you win your conference or compete in your conference, finish in the top 3 in your conference. Another game I'll go to is that first game at Purdue last year, where he played 13 minutes and went 1 for 4. And the box score may not have looked impressive, but we all remember just how unimpressive he was on the basketball court at that time. Purdue, Matt Painter, they basically exploited Ty every time he was on that court, and to the point where conversation became afterwards is, do we need to replace Ty Rodgers in the starting lineup? Now, again, this is not a Ty Rodgers slander episode. Those of you who are my everydayers, I'm a big Ty Rodgers fan. But ultimately, when it comes to me, I'm a bigger fan of the program. And what I appreciate is what Brad Underwood's ultimate aspirations are for the Illini, and that's to win a national championship. What do I want more? Brad Underwood's vision of Illinois winning a national championship, or for Ty Rodgers to have a successful career with the Illini, but maybe limit the ceiling of what the Illini can do? It's clearly the earlier. I think we saw a glimpse of what Will Riley can provide us at the small forward spot. And with Trey White, who is a seasoned veteran, losing a guy like Ty Rodgers, which again hurts because we've been fans of his for so long now, especially with him going to school in Chicago and him, spurning Michigan State, which is quite honestly, that's probably where he's going to end up next year. So that's not going to be easy to see him suit up for another Big Ten team. But at least now, if you take a look at our rotation, things are kind of settling in. Whereas I wasn't sure how they're going to balance things before, at least at the small forward spot. You're going to have Trey White start. Maybe ultimately Will Riley overtakes him, but then you can just bounce the minutes between those two, and then you can bring in a guy like Jake Davis, just to play sporadically whenever whether it's garbage time or somebody is in foul trouble. Would you rather have Ty Rodgers in there than Jake Davis? Of course. And nobody's arguing otherwise. But if you have a guy like Ty Rodgers and, Brad Underwood's being completely honest and trying to, shorten your rotation to 8 guys, maybe 9 guys on occasion, well, that's going to lead to a lot of nights where Ty Rodgers only plays 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And do you want to have a guy who very well could be one of the leaders in the locker room having to answer questions from media about, hey, well, do you think you should be playing more? Of course, Ty thinks he should be playing more. He's a competitor. But I just think that you're risking a type of awkwardness in the vibes in that locker room. And, let's be honest, like Brad Underwood has worked so incredibly hard on working about the culture in that locker room to be positive, be playful, and, understanding that when business needs to get done, business will get done. So again, ultimately, this news is a bummer, and it's hard to argue otherwise. But I do think that if we take our Illinois cap off, if we take our fandom and push it aside in regards to Ty Rodgers, this could be the best for every party. Ty Rodgers next year is going to be able to play for, I'm assuming, a good basketball program, and a program that maybe is going to be more willing to showcase him on the offensive side of the basketball court. I don't know if that role was here for the Illini. I think it's a good move for the Illini because guess what? We saw Will Riley score 31 points in his first college basketball game yesterday. We don't know what his ceiling is, but now we're not going to have to worry about juggling minutes at that small forward spot, trying to keep one of your team captains happy. Ty Rodgers is a fantastic college basketball player. Brad Underwood wants to win the national championship. Is the door completely closed to Ty Rodgers coming back? I don't think so. I would say probably 95%. Again, watching that press conference that Brad did yesterday after the game, he did look pretty emotional and looked like, he talked about no guarantees and that he hopes Ty Rodgers is always going to be in the Illini. But I feel like if Ty is at the point where he's made this decision to redshirt, you kind of have to mentally start moving on and trying to figure out where you're going to live your life for the next couple of years. So either way, I hope this isn't a huge distraction to the Illini and their season this year. Obviously, we see just the ceiling on this basketball team is so immensely talented, and one that I'm going to address a couple of those guys right here in the next segment. But I don't want to hear any Ty Rodgers slander on the show. I'm a big fan of his. I think he's, a key player for the Elite Eight team last year. I just think that ultimately this was a decision made by Ty, but in the best interest of both Ty and the program. Hey, Illini fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pulled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring all funds go to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going. And you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part? It's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm supporting Pat Bryant. I just pitched in $100 and I'd love for you to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. Let's show Pat the love and keep him connected to our school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code Locked On, and you're entered. Already on Roy? Any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary, void where prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_. We turn on you for more information. Roy, support the players, change the game. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So those of you who now follow me on the various social medias know that I do a daily 60-second Illini show called 60-Second Illini. Very creative, I know, and trust me, I'm trying. If you can think of a different name for it, let me know in the comments. Well, today's episode was me talking about Morez Johnson. Now, Morez didn't get a lot of love yesterday, mainly because of Will Riley's historic night, and obviously DGL had an amazing first half himself yesterday, but I just wanted to give the proper attention to a couple guys who I don't think got the love that they necessarily deserved. Morez Johnson only played 15 minutes yesterday. And in those 15 minutes, he had 3 points, 8 rebounds, and set a freshman record with 6 blocks. Again, in his first game of the season. I've talked about this all off season long, and on my episode of Illini Cast where I did a season preview, which, by the way, I'm going to be doing a season preview episode right here on Locked On Illini sometime this week as well. So be on the lookout for that, and make sure, again, that you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss it. I think Morez Johnson is going to be the leading rebounder on this team, which is incredible to say because, having said that, he may not play 20 minutes a game. Especially if Tomislav Risic continues to play as impressive as he has in the first 2 games, meaning the exhibition and opening day against Eastern Illinois. Morez Johnson is not going to overtake Tomislav. Tomislav is a guy who's going to play 25 to 30 minutes a game and be one of the better centers in the conference. And yet, there's one thing that Morez Johnson continues to do better than almost anybody in the country, and that's rebound the basketball. He did it in high school. He did it for FIBA, the Team USA under 18. And it looks like it's going to translate over to the college basketball level as well. I'm actually surprised with how big Morez looked on the court yesterday. I don't know if it's working with Fletch, but for some reason, my perception of what he was going to look like on the court was he's going to be a little bit smaller, but that wasn't the case at all. Morez was just full of energy. You can see how he's going to be a rim runner for this team. For a guy like Kasparas, just when we're playing all spread out and Kasparas draws some gravity, Morez is going to be attacking the rim and hopefully get a couple of easy baskets out of it. But more so, we'll be able to use Morez where his strengths lie, and that's with attacking the rim, rebounding wise, and also maybe even on the defensive side. Again, 6 blocks in your first basketball game at the collegiate level is undoubtedly impressive. The other guy I was impressed by, which again it's funny for me to say, is the guy who everyone already perceives to be the best player on the team, and that's Kasparas Jakucionis. Kasparas' numbers are basically exactly how I predicted them. On Illini Cast, I predicted Kasparas to have 13, 6, and 8, and it turns out on Monday night, Kasparas had in 25 minutes, 11 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds. Again, just an overall, all-around type of game, which is what we're kind of hoping to see from Kasparas. It just so happens that his fellow freshman, Will Riley, went off for 31 points in 25 minutes. And, of course, DGL also had, I believe, 23 points, 18 points, in the first half on Monday. So they got a lot of the attention, but it's nice to see that, Kasparas was not really talked about all that much, not because he played poorly, but just because he was overshadowed by other teammates doing better. You kind of got to see the dynamics of what this backcourt's going to look like, and I've actually hinted about this in previous episodes as well. Kylan Boswell is our starting point guard, and I think he's going to be our starting point guard for the foreseeable future. I know a lot of fans are already itching to have DGL replace him, but I think Kylan, at this point, he had some careless turnovers, just didn't take care of the ball very well. Some of his passes were kind of lazy, and I think that's why I feel stronger in my prediction in saying that I think the offense is going to be run through Kasparas. I think Kylan is our point guard, but by definition only, in the sense where he's the shorter guy. I think Kasparas is going to be the playmaker on this team, and he had a couple really nice passes just yesterday. A couple passes where I didn't think he saw the guy, or he'd make it one-handed, just a soft touch. I think a lot of this offense, which we know is going to be high octane, I mean, we scored 112 points yesterday, is going to be run through Kasparas, where Kylan's going to be counted on more so as an off-the-ball, make the basket when you have a wide open shot, but more importantly, provide veteran leadership, and we need your energy on the defensive side. I feel like he did a very solid job on the defensive side, even yesterday. And while we don't necessarily need Kylan to perform at his peak against teams like Eastern Illinois, we're going to need Kylan's defense when we're playing some of the better teams in the Big Ten Conference. So those are a couple of the guys I wanted to talk about, mainly Morez and Kasparas. Obviously, we're going to be talking about guys like Will Riley and DGL, and whether I've adjusted my expectations for their roles moving forward this season. Spoiler alert, I think it's a little too early to say that. But, who knows? After this game against Alabama, which I believe is on November 20th, then, if they continue to play this way, because I believe that's game number 4. If they continue to play this way and at that pace, then it's time to have some conversations and time to maybe reevaluate just how good this Illinois Fighting Illini team can be. But all in all, I haven't even mentioned guys like Ben Humrickhouse, who himself had 14 points and 5 rebounds on 5 for 8 shooting. That's what we need Ben to do. Other role players, Trey White, didn't show up much in the box score, but me having said that, he had 5 points and 5 rebounds. So it's not like he was a zero either. Like, everyone had their own contributions. Even Kerry Booth, former 4-star player, he had 6 points. He had a very key block and 5 rebounds. A lot of these role players played their roles, and that's all you could have really asked for, because that the temperature in the room after that Ole Miss game was starting to get a little chilly, and people becoming a little insecure and unsure about how this team was ultimately going to look this season. But I do think that things have turned around a little bit after their performance Monday night. And again, we're not going to be as bad as we played against Ole Miss, and we're probably not going to be as good as we were against Eastern Illinois Panthers. But regardless, just remember, after every single game, we're going to be re-evaluating and evaluating right here on Locked On Illini. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have a pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice a difference the next day. Even after a night out, I can confidently plan on watching the NFL games the very next day without any worry. Here's how to use. Step 1, drink pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. And step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to ZBiotics/LockedOnCollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So If you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout for 15% off. And that's going to just about wrap it up for today's episode of Locked On Illini. Again, a lot of you guys are going to be first timers and you everydayers in this chat who are watching. Let those newcomers know that what you think of the show. If you'd like to support the channel, it costs you guys nothing. Please just hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'm here doing this every single day, both on YouTube and the audio platforms. Just do a search for Locked On Illini. Again, it doesn't help you, it doesn't cost you guys anything, but it helps this channel grow immensely. My goal is to hit 1,500 subscribers by the time Thanksgiving rolls around, and I genuinely think that with your help, we can do exactly that. 2 quick notes. Illinois football got 2 commitments on Monday, obviously overshadowed by the Ty Rodgers news and the basketball game itself, but I'm going to be going a little bit more in depth with those recruits and basically watching some tape with them, and I'll release an episode sometime later this week. Brett Bielema, obviously, the football team has a bye week. That doesn't mean that we're going to take a bye week when it comes to talking football. I just feel like we had a lot of basketball news that I wanted to address today, but I'll be addressing football later on this week. That's just going to about wrap it up for today's episode, though. On your way out, please, again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you for making Locked On Illini your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On Big Ten podcast. Craig Shamon puts the Big Ten first. When everyone else overlooks it, find Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. That's all I have for you today. Let me know your honest thoughts on this Ty Rodgers situation. I know it's a bummer, but do you understand why this could be in the best interest for both him and the basketball team? Do you think Brad Underwood is at fault? That 2022 very highly heralded recruiting class, no one is on this team anymore. Is that a cause of concern for you? Not so much for me, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. And until then, I will see you guys on Wednesday. I've got another fun episode planned for you. But until then, ILL love you guys.